Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sam Merrill. I'm joined alongside Jonathan Rulin, and today we're going to be introducing Appian Case Management Studio. So, the phrase cog in the machine likely had its roots in the industrial age. This was an age defined by manufacturing rote, repetitive work for the employees that felt very mechanized. And the idea behind the phrase was that as an employee at one of these factories, you were easily replaceable because you were just a part in a very much larger machine that could go on chugging with or without you. So there was not a very much human element. There was not much creativity to your work. You kind of got in and you did the same rote, repetitive tasks day in and day out, and you knew you were easily replaceable. Now, as we kind of moved on into the age of distribution and then into the information and digital age, we had hopes of the digital age freeing us. So instead of being kind of subservient, a part of the machine, this was a chance to have the machines, the IBM thinking machine, and the robots working for us. If you think about the Jetsons, we were supposed to be driving around in flying cars by now. We were supposed to have all this leisure time to pursue athletics, poetry, the arts, and have the machines working for us. But sometimes it feels like we kind of just replaced the assembly line for the cubicle. Now, that's not entirely true. There's moments at our job where we feel like we're working on the same task day in and day out. It's the same tired user interface, the same form fill out. But that's not always the case. A large part, if you see on that the left-hand side here, really work can be great. And part of that is the company culture, of course. But another big aspect of it is the technology that the company, the organization adopts and uses that the end users get to use day in and day out. So if you see that left-hand image, what's going on there is that you want technology to really empower the end user. Think of a fusion team where you have collaboration with marketing, the business, the engineers and design coming together and doing creative, autonomous work. A lot of that is dictated, and we feel that empowerment through the technologies and the user interfaces we use day in and day out. And if you didn't think that's true, Forrester, Gartner, McKinsey, they run surveys all the time on the future of work and the next generation of work. And Generation Z, digital natives, as they're so called, 86% of them will not work for an organization that does not have a modern technology stack. So if you didn't think user experience and technology empowerment, digital transformation at that level was important, according to the next crop of employees, it is. So today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to see how Case Management Studio empowers those end users. And Jonathan will come up. He'll give 3 practical use cases for Case Management Studio. And then we'll direct you how you guys can get started today. And you'll be able to learn more resources throughout the conference to see Case Management Studio in action. But to do that, we kind of got to go back a little bit. So this timeline is so-called the evolution of case management. And we're going to see exactly how case management has evolved over the years to become what it is today. And really where it got its start, if you guys can go back to the 1980s, 1985 or about, where workflow was invented. And what workflow was aimed to do was to actually replace the paper-based systems of old. So think of a mailroom, getting a package and opening that up, having very paper-heavy processes. Workflow, as the ubiquitous of the personal PC, became convenient enough that organizations could adopt them. It became a departmental technology that you could use to replace paper-based systems. So this was great productivity enhancement. You cut down on all these paper-based systems, and then ended up when workflow was deemed an appropriate technology, an appropriate solution to these old paper-based systems, like the filing cabinet, well, then you needed to connect that departmental level to the overall other departments of the organization. So think end-to-end processes. Well, that's where enterprise app integration came in. And then around the 90s, enterprise app integration evolved into BPM standards, because it needed to be codified. Business rules were developed, the first visual process modeling to sort of draw out those integration processes connecting department to department. Now, it got kind of interesting when BPMS came around, the Business Process Management Suites. So business process management suites came along right around 2000, in the 2000s, and you see things like SOA and model-driven development. Well, the reason being was because this was two big factors caused this. Deluge of information, deluge of data came from 2007 was when Steve Jobs, the age of mobility and social. So social media started becoming a thing. People started walking around with phones in their pockets, mini computers in their pockets, and the older traditional ways of BPM weren't really cutting it. There were polls, executives were polled. They were worried that this new information-led age of mobile and social, that the traditional BPMN systems could not keep up with that. They were too structured and they were very highly automated. So it was kind of like you were judging work like revolutions per minute. And that really kind of kept the human subservient to the task, because what that meant was that since the human was just working at that task level, they only had the context, the information they needed at the task-to-task basis. So think of a form, you just give that human agent enough to know how to finish that specific task, and then it's on to the next. And so it's very structured, highly automated. Now, if you look back under BPMS, right under model-driven development, we have dynamic case management. And what dynamic case management, what that really allowed to do was that we needed a new adaptable agility layer mixed with the information-led design that really brought about dynamic case management, because what it allowed was for when, think about social channels and all this new information coming in, it allowed the human to really shine in the process because they had more context and they had more information at their disposal. So it allowed you to break free of that traditional limitations of BPMN and then work within the case. So this is the picture of the case. And really what it became was, instead of working at that task-to-task basis, and really the task and the process was the overall measure of productivity and efficiency, what the age of the customer allowed was to think in terms of goals and milestones to achieve those goals. And what the goal really is great customer service, right? It's to solve a case and to get to an end resolution and have the information at every step, every state transition of that case, so that the end users that are working out of that view have all the information they need in one place. So when all these social channels came online and there's information coming in at every minute, the view updates in real time, and your task workers, case workers, can ad hoc create casts, ad hoc decision making, so they can adapt when needed to those unpredictable, loosely structured styles of work. And so if we keep on going a little bit further out, what ends up happening, if you look at the Venn diagram, is dynamic case management. It brought that human layer into the process, but then intelligent business process, like there was an age, the AI revolutions back in the 2015 to 2019, brought about the analytic craze of IBPMS. So then you had intelligent business process management systems, and really that gave birth to the LCAP, the low-code application platform. So now, not only are you giving more control to the humans to design their cases, have that 360-degree view of their case to break free of that traditional limitations of BPMN, but you're also giving them the power to actually, the citizen developers, to actually design their applications, design their user interfaces with low code. So that was a revolution unto itself. And so if you take a look at that timeline, Appian has actually been along every step of the way from the early days of BPM, 2006, where he debuted as visionary on the Magic Quadrant for BPMN, and then all the way through leaders in dynamic case management, leaders in IBPMS, leaders in low code. Now, what's interesting when you look at this timeline is, the way I see it is we're entering a new age. The new age is no code, defined by no code in AI Copilot. So it's the next abstraction layer on top of that low code application platform, where right now we're still kind of in the mainstream of low code. Low code went mainstream right around 2010, about 2020, right during the pandemic. And now we're kind of in this hyper automation phase of that. But what we're entering into next is the age of composability, the low code, where you have to treat every app you make, compartmentally, end to end, whatever it may be, as a composable building block to build off of. Because these platforms, what they allow you to do, if you think of them, the applications, as building blocks, it allows you to rapidly accelerate your development because you can build off of what you've modeled and brought into that departmental level app. use it as a basis for the next app. And that's how you keep really accelerating development at the low-code level. So what's really interesting is we're going into a new abstraction level with the AI Copilot and no-code, where these AI copilots have literally made, we've seen the CEO of NVIDIA say that everybody in the world now is a programmer. So that's a pretty revolutionary idea, because soon we're going to be able to speak apps into existence with natural language. Speak it. If you need a workflow at the departmental level, you can just type it in with natural language and it'll build it for you, generate it for you. And so with those principles of composability in AI, that's what we wanted to bring to Case Management Studio. So we've really modernized case management to make it AI powered. And what does that mean? Well, it's practical AI assistance at every step of the case for your end users. You have natural language search, the summarization of comments and documents, being able to chat with your documents, the suggestion of similar cases, intelligently triaging work, all with AI. As you can see there, we're going to continuously adapt this as these generative AI LLM features keep progressing to stay up to date, because it's modular, right? So we can do this without breaking what you build on Case Management Studio. We can deploy it very easily. And that speaks to the modular nature as the other big principle of this. Because with the low-code application platform, since it's defined by that composability, it's that foundational layer that really gives birth to the studio, right? So it's the speed of a solution, but the flexibility of the platform. You can compose apps on it and build out these departmental case management studio apps very easily. So what is it? So this is a live look at it. It's a pre-built application filled with building blocks and dashboards to really track work, manage your workflows, measure case performance, and prioritize your tasks. And how do you configure it? Well, it's with no code. So here's a look at kind of that walk-up ready no code studio, and it's designed to make these very powerful, tailor-made applications. This is how you go from those building blocks to actually configure it for your domain. And as you can see, you have the ability to configure your case types, and that means your data, your workflows, and your views, all with no code. So let's see it. So when we say compose with no code, I mean you do not have to go into the designer to build out workflows anymore. This is all drag and drop with forms straight from a front-end experience right in Studio. So you can build your case types, your workflows, and edit data and your data modeling all within this very easy-to-use, form-based no-code studio. And then this is a look at how you kind of design forms. So the form builder or the interface builder, it's actually all drag and drop. You won't see any expression language or any sail here. You can simply drag in these components, right, that are pre-made or that are perfect for case-style forms. And it's kind of like if you go bowling, where you got the bumper lanes, we've made sure that it's only the components you need to optimize case workflows for those types of forms. And you can see it's very simple to map the data that you model within Studio, the no-code studio, right to the component that you want to bring in. So who's this really designed for? Well, the studio aspects, the no-code aspect, is for those business users, those business technologists, those citizen developers. But if you can see the spectrum here, we've accounted for everybody, because with the flexibility of the low-code platform, you could tap any kind of Appian low-code designer to bring in a module that you might need to extend the functionality of Studio. So let's say you needed to display your CRM data from Salesforce in a nice little grid. Well, you could tap the low-code developer to create the connected system in the designer, make a pretty nice user interface module, and then deploy it to the solution hub so that the business user or the Appian Case Management Studio citizen developer can easily integrate it into Studio, and then you have this nice symbiosis between low code and no code. But even further out, you could tap the pro code developer with the Appian Integration SDK to bring in and extend the functionality of the platform with plugins, integration SDK, component plugins, connected systems, smart services, to kind of bring any kind of other SaaS or any other technology that's not accounted for in the low code designer. And then you could have that built out, and then the low-code developer could wrap the low-code module around it and then also deploy it. And then the business user or the end users benefit from all of this, because not only do they get all that pre-made stuff out of the box, the assistance with the AI Copilot, but those great user interfaces as well. So seen in another way, that's Appian Case Management Studio And we kind of provide that low code, no code, pre-built experience for all the different personas that you see there. And it takes care of that IT control and business agility at both ends of the spectrum. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan, and he's going to walk you through the use cases.
We will have question answer time as well. At the end, we'll have a mic running around. So if you do have questions, feel free to raise your hand, and we'll be more than happy to try to answer those for you. So what is case management? Talked with someone a little bit earlier today, and they're like, yeah, we do case management, but we don't call it case management. We're doing this other thing. It's not really case management. And it's like, okay, well, what exactly is it? It's like, well, we have these, things that we have to manage, and we have like all ad hoc processes and stuff that we have to do. We don't really have a straightforward workflow. It's very variable as far as everything that gets done. And I was like, yeah, that's actually case management. Every industry may call it something different. We have a process that we don't have a straightforward line that we're going through. And so as you can see here on the screen, case management is a lot of things. The one use case that I want to call out from an enterprise perspective is the Department of Labor. So when you're looking at enterprise Appian, and what Appian does for your organization as a platform is streamline processes, bring data together through data fabric, allowing you to build applications rapidly. A lot of those applications that that our customers have used and have created have been case management applications. And sometimes not. Sometimes other just straight through BPMS type applications. With the Department of Labor, they have over 25 applications live right now. They have more that are being developed every year. But the two main pieces that I wanted to show was kind of highlighting two of the main case management applications. So being able to increase initial case processing time decreasing by 20 days, which had a substantial cost savings for their organization, as well as the congressional tracking system, which basically went from concept to production in just 4 months. They were able to build it very rapidly on Appian. But that was really using, and this isn't an example of theirs, but it was using full Appian platform. Process model, having very complex use cases. Maybe they were going out and grabbing AI to process things and have integrations, and anybody who's used Appian kind of has an idea of what this might look like in your process modeler. Whenever you're creating a case, you usually have something that you would want it to classify that case, or have something to kind of start the process, because it can be very complex and you want to make sure the right work goes to the right people. And that's what we're seeing as our kind of bread and butter over the past 20 years on that left-hand side. Super complex, mission-critical applications that need to be created that have huge ROI for your organization, time savings, cost savings, you name it. But what a lot of time happens is as you kind of move along the right-hand side, there's maybe not as much ROI. There might not be as much business value that gets you the priority to actually get your application created or get your application built. And so what do you end up doing? IT. And waiting. Waiting for IT. Okay, maybe I can get it in this time. Is it going to be high enough priority? Nope. Okay. Our team's going to have to keep doing what they're doing the way they're doing it. And so this is really where the power of Case Management Studio comes in. What if instead of having to need an Appian low-code developer for 2 weeks to work with your team to actually build up an application, you start with your business users, your business technologists, being able to build the framework, being able to build the workflow, being able to build UIs, whatever it might be from a standard perspective. And then you only need maybe a day of that low-code developer to make sure everything gets tied into the data fabric, set up integrations, things like that. So it really allows for more flexibility and more of those, maybe less complex, but still valuable use cases to be able to solve. And so one of those would be, Okay, we need to include other colleagues from other departments. What could that look like? What do we need to do to incorporate that? Well, from our perspective, maybe we're using the complex workflow today and we hand work off to someone else to start working and to start doing, but we don't have visibility into that. We don't know what they're doing. We just know that they've got to do it and then they've got to get it back to us. Being able to have a process where you can then have that other team that needs the work to be able to build their own flow, to build their own app, and then you're able to see what's happening from that perspective. It's a simple process creation. We'll show that in just a few minutes. But then also making sure that once that's created, it's not these siloed kind of citizen development apps. It's on the platform. So as we're talking about data fabric, and we have been for a long time, you're able to tie that data in. So everything that you're creating is able to leverage the data that's already in the system. There's no rework. Those Lego blocks, that foundation of your data fabric is already there. It's a way to quickly create these applications and tie them in. And I'll jump over and kind of demo, just showing you some of the out of the box, what you're looking at from what you receive with Case Management Studio. So you have a workspace. So as the end user, as the case worker, the workspace is already built for your team. You don't have to worry about configuring UIs. You don't have to worry about configuring the dashboard. You set up groups, you set up permissions, you set up users. They have all the actions that they need to do, whether it's submitting cases, creating entities, manage reports, whatever it might be. All their cases that they're working is there at the top. They have all their tasks that they need to do. They've got a running log down the left-hand side of activities. So everything that the user would need to do, it's right there. There's no configuration of working inside this dashboard to actually build it. It comes out of the box. All the information about the specific case that you might be working. The summary view, having AI smart suggestions built in. All of your task management right there as part of the case. The milestones that we'll get to in a little bit of the workflow, where it is in the workflow, how many tasks are in each milestone, how are we progressing? It's all there out of the box. Full document management, being able to relate this case to other cases and suggestions, full comment, history, chat, even having the ability to have people come in and watch a particular case so they get have an understanding of what's going on in their cases. Again, out of the box as part of Case Management Studio. Being able to see the documents, go into the tasks here. So here I can see the workflow of what's happening in this process. I see the high-level milestones there across the top. And again, that's created when they go in and kind of create their workflow. But they're all color-coded, and I'm able to see which ones have been completed, and then where we are in the process, and which ones need to be completed, which ones don't. So all of this from again, out of the box, you're not having to build any of these UIs. They're there, and they're able to be used. Document management, and then reporting as well. So I'm logged in as an administrator, so I have a little bit more information here when I go to my home screen. I can see my case manager dashboard, because that's one of the roles that I have. And I can look at employees with the most cases and processing time, open cases. Again, all out of the box, being able to create and view these types of reports and build these dashboards. I can also look at it if I also was a caseworker to be able to see it from the caseworker side. Or if I'm not a manager, then this is the only report that I would see. And you have the ability to make people, give them permissions, whether they want to see it or not. But is, again, out of the box here for your users, looking at open cases, milestones, progress. And again, if I was just a caseworker, I would not be seeing all the cases, so my data set would be a little smaller. So that's part of the capabilities. And following this session, Rachel will be up here and do a deep dive into all of this. But I just want to make sure that you got to get a flavor of exactly what's part of Appian Studio. So the workspace is part of it. And then, oh, actually, I think I can just do that. There we go. Then we have the studio side. So the studio is where you're going to go in. You're not just your case workers, but more of that business technologist that's going to go in and build the application. They get to build what types of cases do I need to work. And it's not just one case type. So you can see we have many different case types. And within each of those case types, we have many different categories. And within each of those categories, we have many different cases as well. So if I wanted to, let's say we'll go into an incident and look at property damage. As we saw at the keynote, you have your data, you have your intake forms, you have your workflow, you have your summary pages. These are all things that can be created through no code, dragging, dropping, and working with creating data, creating workflows, and then make those where people have the ability to take action and to do the work. So the first thing is, what are the milestones? What do I care about in this process that we're going through? We know that not every task is going to hit every single, or not every process is going to hit every single task, but we know that there are certain milestones that are established and certain milestones that we're going to pass through. And so you're able to create those for that particular workflow. And then when you get into the task, you then start to get into, okay, what are tasks that we use frequently? What are tasks that are always together? You're able to build these kind of task blocks. And with those task blocks, there we go, you're able to then build out your workflow and set up kind of dynamic movement of those particular cases and the particular path that you're coming through. So we have this task. We need to determine the severity of this particular case. We're allowed to come in here. We assign it to a milestone, so it's color-coded for us. And then the user goes in, your business user says, hey, these are the 4 options. These are the 5 options. These are the 6 options that we want to collect. And they're going to choose one of those. And based on what they choose, we want it to do, and we want it to go to another place in the workflow. And so as your no-code designer, I'm putting in, okay, what are the responses? Type in those responses, and then go into, okay, what do these lead into? Which next step in the process flow? Do we skip one because they answer this way? Or going here, we're going to move them to a different case, to a different task that they need to do. And so it's just like setting up kind of filters on an email. It's, again, no code. You're dragging, you're dropping, you're typing in what you need, you're grouping them together. You build the workflow, and then your workflow is available to be able to create a new case and start the process with how are we moving forward, what do we want them to do, the different cases that are needed. Now just really quickly jump into our task blocks. Want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A. So a task block you can kind of think of it as what needs to happen always together. So for documentation and reporting, maybe there are one thing that gets initiated, we get a document, we have these 4 different options that we can do, and we always want to make sure that we do those 4, and then eventually one of those 4 is done, and then it comes back and it kind of finishes out that piece. Or with a payment, there's 1 or 2 steps. So it allows you, just like you can build in Appian and build these modular interfaces and reusable pieces, you're also able to then build these reusable task blocks, which are made up of tasks that you can then quickly and easily add into your workflow that you're building. And you can even give the permission as far as going in and adding ad hoc tasks, having those capabilities there so that it's not always the same thing, the same time in moving that information forward. You give your users the flexibility to make sure they can do what they need to do as they're managing the cases. And that's kind of the high level of Case Management Studio. There's a lot more that we can touch on. We've got about 10 minutes left. We do want to hear some examples from you. Is there anything that's have kind of triggered in your mind? Oh yeah, I've seen, case management when I saw it on stage at the keynote. This was one of the first things that I thought of. Or any specific questions just about Studio of itself. If you want to raise your hand, we should have a mic runner coming. Yes, we do. Awesome. One brave soul. Yes.
We got a couple questions.
Yeah.
Yes, is this offering something that is only available in Appian Cloud, or could it be purchased and installed in my own environment?
Both.
Excellent.
What level of case types, or how many levels of case types can you have in the current Case Management Studio? Is it really that there's a single set of types that exist, or there's subtypes? How deep does that go?
You control it. So in this environment, we have like categories. In the other screen that I had way more categories and way more case types. So I don't think there is a limit on the number.
I don't believe so.
We would probably recommend you trying to keep a manageable number, but for certain you have the ability to sort those case types and those categories. Yes, ma'am.
Is Case Management Studio available for self-managed customers?
Yes.
And one last thing, what about tasks or milestones that require sign-off or signatures as you're moving through a process?
Absolutely. So you have, as part of the process, you have confirmation task types, but that's where you would then maybe go to a low-code designer to actually set up maybe an integration with DocuSign or something like that you would need to kind of enhance that case management workflow.
Out of the box, basic confirmation task types are available out of the box, and that's all at the end user level.
Yep. Got 3 and then here.
Can this integrate with the current process models that we have?
Yes.
And also writing to data store entities?
Correct. So you're having this information tying into your data fabric. You're going to have that as part of your process. So you'll build your process. If you need to write to other systems through the data fabric, then you would add that within the process model. And again, usually the low-code designer would then have that, those write record types kind of brought into the process model that's created from case management.
Could you please speak a little bit about the assignment capabilities as you create tasks, either to individuals or groups, and can that be dynamic based on attributes of your case?
Yeah, I wonder if you could go show them in the workspace at the end user level how you could pick up a task, how you could decline a task, create an ad hoc task, reassign it.
Yep. So yeah, that's all native to Appian out of the box. So I can update the status, I can update the assignee, so I could reassign it. When I create that task originally, I can have a default group that always gets that type of task, so it can even be set from that perspective.
Hi, so if we go through the process of citizen developer, then enhancing with low code, what is the plan for upgrades to case management, and will those upgrades contain the customizations?
So the upgrade, you've got your, again, as Sam mentioned, the modularization of it. So you've got your base application. The customizations aren't on the base application. They are even their separate module in and of itself. So the base application would be upgraded and it would not affect your customizations.
Yeah. It's in the base application, since it's made up of many modules, when you add another module in, you tie it into that interface. It's not going to break it upon the upgrade path. So it remains containerized and separate from the base application.
You've had your hand up for a while. You can just yell it.
Yeah, so I guess my question is more in line with deadline management and trying to set prioritization on tasks.
Question about deadline management and set prioritization on tasks.
Is there like priority levels that are inherently given these and help determine what path deadline is provided first?
There is deadlines, so due dates, things like that, SLAs associated with it, but not priorities out of the box.
So in terms of the base code for this. I'm asking mainly because when you start to talk about integrating with other applications or other platforms that may exist in an organization, and you start to talk different databases or just the code base in general, it gets a little difficult. So asking from that perspective, and also from, say we have other platforms in our environment like Salesforce, like, you know, whatever Microsoft may offer, how you work that through the data fabric.
Yeah, so your data fabric layer is where you are pulling in the integrations with the different systems that are across your organization. And so because case management is built on Appian, you'll have the ability to tie directly to the data fabric. It doesn't have to be separate connection to that CRM or to that ERP from case management. It's just going to be from the Appian platform.
Yeah, right here.
Hi, what's the licensing model, and is there any governance in the tool?
There is. So licensing will be covered by your account executive. So you'll have to ask questions based on license and all of the other legal stuff that happens. As far as governance goes, so this is governed just like another application. So it would be in your dev environment. You would have your deployment capabilities that you would do with any of these applications, just like you would before. And again, it's also kind of brings back the tie-in to, it's not true siloed citizen development. You're allowing your citizens to kind of start that process, but they're still within the guardrails. You know, the bumpers.
Platform, you have the IT control, because what's underneath it is the LCAP.
Right. Yep.
When will we have documentation for how to make those customized workflows? Because like I know Appian has recipes, but will we have a similar thing on the Appian community on how to create like specific workflows and how to update case management?
That might be a good segue into Brian and Rachel's presentation later on, where you'll be able to learn more of that deeper layer of how to set those kind of things up.
So for more questions, we just have, yes, you can definitely grab me afterwards. But also in the community hub, kind of on the back right-hand corner of the ginormous Appian thing, we've got our case management demo. So if you want to come over, ask more questions, look at it, we'll be more than happy to help you with that.
You'll be there, right?
I'll be there a little bit tomorrow. I was there 8 a.m. this morning. After a 5K, I barely made it. It was tough, a lot tougher than I thought 5K should have been. Also, check out the live build challenge. They're actually putting in some case management task and work to kind of challenge our live builders. So watching that will be great. Make sure you contact your Appian rep about how to get it, how to get access to it, and what that would look like. But following this session, we'll have a short little break. We'll be back here at 2:30 for the deep dive into customizing. So you're really going to see her, you know, building workflows and doing all that kind of thing, and then have a great use case after that session.
Yeah, that's 3 and Dylan Fulmer. Definitely look forward to that success story on Case Management Studio. They're already up and running on it. So,
thank you all so much for your time. Really appreciate it.